Hello, traders. Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, July 23rd. I'm Melissa. I'm a trader here at Simpler Trading in the trendy trading room. And today I want to talk to you about how I wait for confirmation when price pulls back into a buy zone. For me, this is a very important way to not just reduce my risk, but also protect my capital and allow what could be a good trade to turn into a great trade. So let's get started here with the first slide is what is a buy zone? That's important, right? So for me, a buy zone is a zone of demand where I have an imbalance candle. An imbalance candle is just a candle of greater size than the other candles around it. This is showing strength in this case to the upside since we're talking about buying demand zones. It is showing strength to the upside with higher volume, which means that there is a good chance there's going to be orders that were not able to be filled down here. And it's often a magnet that price will pull back to eventually. I like to include Fibonacci levels, of course, the inside candle formation. There's a high probability that price will react to these zones, and always my buy zones are aligned with technical confluences. Now, a buy zone isn't just any pullback, it's a strategic level where I expect buyers to step in. Again, often aligned with demand, including an inside candle followed by an imbalance candle. And I love it when there is also key Fibonacci levels or moving averages in confluence at the same level. This concept works both for day trading and swing trading. And here in a minute, I will switch to some live charts and show you examples from yesterday and today. Now, why does confirmation matter? It reduces false breakouts effectively, helps avoid premature trade entries, improves trade conviction and timing, and enhances the overall trading discipline. Waiting for confirmation protects you from jumping in too early. It filters out weak setups and gives your trade stronger odds of success. As a matter of fact, in the live charts, I'm going to show you how waiting for confirmation on the NASDAQ futures today in my first buy zone saved me from a trade that would have been a losing trade. I need to point out that if my buy zone is a fresh zone, meaning that price has not tested the levels before, I will start a position with a smaller allocation size so that I at least have some skin in the game. The reason I do that is oftentimes when I have found a buy zone, if it's a fresh zone, price often has a strong reaction to it on that first pullback. And I like to at least have a little bit of money at risk, but I always save part of my allocation to add on further pullbacks in the demand zone with confirmation. So, let me talk about some of my top confirmation signals. These are the ones that I trust the most. When I see a higher low form on a smaller time frame chart, what I mean by a smaller time frame chart is if this is a buy zone for a swing trade, off of a daily chart, I often go down to a 2 hour or a 1 hour chart and wait for the confirmation signals that I need in order to add to my allocation or start a trade. I love inside candles followed by a bullish breakout candle, which a bullish breakout candle means that it closes above the inside candle. I also love to use the trendy turn indicator that is signaling a potential shift in momentum and trend. And whenever I see higher lows and a trendy turn signal, that is a confirmation signal for me. And then recently, I've been using John Carter's new monster momentum indicator, and I really like that one as well. So if I get a momentum reversal arrow on, if it's for a swing trade, watch those on a 30-minute chart. And if it's for a day trade, then I'm watching those anywhere from a 2-minute chart to a 5-minute chart. Once I get a reversal arrow, that is another confirmation that the buy zone is ready to be bought. Now, let's talk about what I mean by inside candle breakout combo. So, on this chart, you can see that we had a swift imbalance candle to the downside. This green box represents my buy zone. I did not just buy at the top because of the size of the candles and the swiftness of the move to the downside. I wanted to wait for confirmation inside this buy zone. So, the first candle and the second candle after this sharp downtrending candle both closed inside the body of this one. This is what I mean by inside candles. Notice here was the low on that first 5-minute candle. And then on the third 5-minute candle, we made a higher low. The next candle was my trigger candle, so to speak, because this was the breakout candle. After two inside candles, after making higher lows, this candle broke out above the inside candles. This was my confirmation that this buy zone was ready for me to buy. And of course, this yellow arrow here, which is a trendy indicator, the trendy turn signal, that only furthered my conviction in this buy zone. Whoopsie daisy. One click too many. Sorry about that. Trendy turns and the Momo reversal arrows. I just wanted to give you a visual of what these look like. The trendy turn signals to the upside are the yellow arrows that you see on my chart, signaling a shift, potential shift in the current trend, which was to the downside in this case. Price had pulled back into a buy zone. We started making higher lows, got the trendy turn signals. This is a 30-minute chart that I'm showing you. And this pink arrow right here for me on my charts, that is what color I made the Momo reversal arrows. So for this example, I had all three confirmation, higher lows, trendy turn signals, and a Momo reversal arrow all inside of a buy zone. This was strong confirmation that the zone was ready to be bought, and that is my green light to make this trade. Now, let's take a look while we're on this whole idea. Let's take a look at live charts. And let me show you those examples that I want to talk about from today. This first example is from today, and I just used the ES futures chart. This example would look the same on SPY or SPX. What this first gray box represents is a buy zone. It is based on Fibonacci as well as 30-minute inside candle formations. So my first buy zone on ES was here between 63.61 and 63.53. The next buy zone was down here at 63.46 and a half by 63.39.95. I would just round that to 63.40. And then the third and final buy zone for today was on down here at 63.36 by 63.18. Now, the cyan colored box that you see on my screen, this is a trendy indicator called the PMZ or pre-market zone. It is my go-to indicator for day trading. Price above this indicator equals a trigger long, and price below this indicator equals a trigger short. The best thing you can do as a trader is to know both where you want to be short the market and where you want to go long the market. Why? Because if you're short the market below the PMZ, and you know that your first buy zone or where you would look to go long is at, then that gives you a target for your short. And vice versa. If you are long the market from a buy zone and you know where your first sell zone is at or where you would look to get short, that gives you a target to the upside from the buy zone. So let's talk about this buy zone on ES, and then I'm going to compare it to the very same buy zone on the NASDAQ. Because today the ES pulled back into this buy zone, got confirmation that it was good to go for me to buy the dip in this buy zone. Whereas the NASDAQ hit this buy zone with no confirmation and went on down to the lower buy zone. But let's talk about this one first. When price got to what we call in the trendy room the bull channel, that is the Fibonacci levels between the 236 and the 382. When ES pulled back into this zone, I was talking to my trendy members as well as SPX members and said that once we make higher lows inside of this zone, have an inside candle formation, then this zone is a buy the dip. The first opportunity we had was right here. This is an inside candle. Here is the low inside of this buy zone. Here is the next low, which is a higher low. So this created higher lows, inside candle with a breakout candle to the upside. I put this exact level on the chart in the rooms and said, if price pulls back to 53 or sorry 63.5675, that's a buy the dip opportunity in this first buy zone. You can see we got that pullback, then the handy dandy trendy turn signals inside of this zone, and off she went. It wasn't the easiest, cleanest ride to the first target being the PMZ because that is resistance when price is below it. But nonetheless, you can see that the trade worked out great in this first buy zone. Now, remember, I told you that I wanted to show you an example on the NASDAQ. using those same Fibonacci levels, those same 30-minute inside and up candle formations to create buy zones. I want to show you the same thing on the NASDAQ and show you why that first and second buy zone never set up. Okay, the PMZ again, price below. First opportunity I would be looking for to buy a dip is in this bull channel. First 5-minute candle, here is your low. Next candle was an inside candle. But unlike ES that then created a breakout candle, the NASDAQ, the very next candle was a down candle. That made this buy zone invalidated. No trade from this buy zone. So then my eyes automatically go back or go down to the next buy zone. You can see price came in. Here is our low at the time. I'm looking for higher lows, inside candles, trendy turn signals, or Momo reversal arrows. I did not get that. I got rather a lower low, an inside candle, followed by another down candle, further lower lows, lower low, lower low, and lower low. The first buy the dip opportunity on the NASDAQ, unlike the ES that created a confirmation in this first buy zone, NASDAQ did not. That saved me from a losing trade on this first buy zone. It saved me from a losing trade on the second buy zone, protecting my capital. The first opportunity that set up according to my confirmation rules of higher lows inside candles is right in here, where we created a higher low at a Fibonacci level, higher low, trendy turn signal, and an up candle. Price immediately comes back to test this area. The line would have been right here at 23,167. Again, if we make a lower low, this trade is no longer valid. So the stop would be a lower low. All right. On this pullback, trigger long, we do not stop out of the trade. Again, price reverses and eventually all the way back to the PMZ, which is now resistance. So that's an example of 2 days price action on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, how using the confirmation at buy zones would have created a good trade from the first buy zone on ES and would have also saved us from a losing trade at the first and second buy zone on NQ. Pretty cool, huh? Stefan says, but very often John teaches us to just buy the level, don't wait for confirmation, or else we might miss it. So for me, Stefan, remember I said that if it is a fresh zone, not tested zone, and I want some skin in the game, I'll go smaller allocation and then wait to add to full allocation at after a confirmation that occurs inside of the buy zone. That would be the example of how you could just buy it blindly right here. I wouldn't because it's already a tested zone, but if you wanted to and you're okay with the risk, go for it. But for me, I'm just telling you how I personally treat buy zones. I will take the trade at the top of a buy zone if it's a fresh buy zone, but I always, and I can confidently say I always leave at least half allocation inside of my buy zone to add to full allocation, put my full risk on the trade only after that confirmation of higher lows, a trendy turn signal, or a Momo reversal arrow. Okay. All right. Now I want to show you an example, a recent example of a swing trade that I used this very concept for. And actually, Stefan, I will show you how I started this trade because it was a fresh zone right here. I went in with a little less than half allocation right here on this first touch. Okay, so I at least had some skin in the game if our cat, red cat, had gotten a swift bounce right here. But I left some allocation for my ads to full allocation, waiting for confirmation. So let me show you this on a 2-hour chart. I like to use a 2-hour or a 1-hour chart. Let me say this. Depending on how aggressive you want to be with your ads, the smaller time frame chart that you're looking at for the confirmation signals, the more aggressive it is. The higher the time frame chart you're looking at for those confirmation signals, the less aggressive it is. So for me on RCAT, I used this confirmation in my buy zone to wait for higher lows, trendy turn signal, inside candle followed by an up candle before adding to my RCAT position. And it paid off. Today, I was able to trim RCAT and take some profits from the dip buy that we bought down here, take some profits on those ads up here today. So this is an example of what started out as a trade off of a daily chart. That's where the plan was built off of. Having some skin in the game, half allocation, but waiting for confirmation signals before adding to the position, waiting for the higher lows, the trendy turn signals. We also, on this trade, had a Momo reversal arrow as well. Let me show you that. For the Momo reversal arrows, like I said, I like to look at those 30-minute time frames for the Momo reversal. And it doesn't look like the Momos are showing on my chart. Give me 1 second and let me just add them real quick. Sorry about that. I thought I had them added on my chart. And I'm going to make it pink. That's the color I like to have on there. Hopefully that worked. If not, you'll just have to take my word for it. But yeah, there we go. There's your monster Momo reversal arrow, trendy turn signal, and the higher lows and inside candle followed by a breakout candle. All three confirmation signals for me inside of my buy zone is what caused me to add risk or add allocation, never more than my maximum allocation. I don't just add to the trade because it's a loser inside of my buy zone. I always stick with a set allocation amount. But so far, so good on the RCAT position. Now, let me go back to my final slide here, real quick, and just cover some key takeaways from what I have taught you today. And then I will, sorry, take any questions that you might have regarding how I wait for confirmation signals inside of my buy zones. You can ask those questions in the comments or the chat over on the right hand side there. I'm always happy to answer your questions. So, key takeaways is this: I like to wait for confirmation signals before fully allocating in a buy zone. Patience is key for optimal trade entries. It's not the person that's the fastest out of the gate that necessarily wins the race. Patience is an edge in trading that if you can master it while not being too patient, will give you an edge in the market. Confirmation reduces trade risk and improves conviction. I like to observe momentum, candle structures, and those important indicators that I talked about, the trendy turn signals and the monster Momo reversal arrows. Confirmation is your edge. Let the setup come to you. Wait for price action to prove itself, and you'll avoid chasing trades that were never ready. If you want to see an example, all I have to do is go to that NQ chart that I talked about that I showed you. I had some buy zones set up based on Fibonacci levels and candlestick structure that by remaining patient and waiting for confirmation saved me from not one losing trade, but two losing trades. The real buy the dip moment on the NASDAQ occurred right down here at or around 23,150. So I hope you find that this valuable. No matter what strategy you trade, you don't have to be a supply and demand trader. Your buy zone might be based off of voodoo lines or Darvis boxes or just simple support and resistance levels, what have you. Whatever strategy you trade, wherever you find or however you find your buy zones, I encourage you to at least back test this concept and see if it doesn't give you better trade entries. So, as always, thank you so much for joining us here at Simpler Trading. We truly value each and every one of you. If you're not a member already at Simpler, be sure to go to simplertrading.com. We have the absolute best community of traders and subscribers that you will find anywhere out there. I truly, truly believe that. And we would love to have you come and check us out. We have trials that are for $7 for a month. You can come hang out with us at Simpler and find your home. All right. Until next time, I hope y'all have an awesome day.